All right, let's jump into this deep dive. We're taking a look at the rise of Daniel from poverty to purpose. And okay, I know. You might be thinking fiction, really. But seriously, this story, it's got some powerful lessons woven in there about, well, about learning and resilience and like just overall transformation.
Yeah, it's amazing. The story uses Daniel's journey to show something we all kind of take for granted. That drive that comes from within, that intrinsic motivation.
Oh, totally. You meet Daniel and things aren't exactly peaches and cream for him, you know? Poverty, loneliness, the whole 9 yards. But there's this fire in him, this deep desire to learn English.
Right. It really makes you wonder, what is it about a dream that can keep us going, even when things are tough?
Definitely. And I think the story starts hinting at the answer right away. Remember that old beat-up grammar book?
You mean the one the vendor gives him?
Exactly. It seems like such a small thing, you know, a simple act of kindness,
Yeah.
but it ends up changing Daniel's entire life.
It really does. And it makes you think about how our actions, even the little ones, can have a huge impact.
No kidding. It's like a ripple effect.
Totally.
Yeah.
And you know what? It actually ties into some cool research on motivation. Studies have shown that even small gestures of support can seriously boost someone's confidence, their commitment to a goal.
So it's not just a heartwarming moment in the story, it's like backed up by science.
Exactly. It's pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
And there's another thing here that I find really interesting. The story doesn't just tell us Daniel wants to learn English. It shows us how he starts, with simple words, basic phrases.
Right. It's like a little nudge from the story reminding us that we got to start somewhere. Like even mastering something huge starts with those small steps.
Absolutely. That's something we can all use no matter what we're working towards. But, as the story goes on, we see that it's not all smooth sailing for Daniel. He runs into some walls, like literally, starting with those villagers who make fun of him for learning English.
Oh, yeah. That part was hard. It's like a punch to the gut, especially if you've ever felt that disapproval when you're trying something new. Why do you think the author included that part, that challenge?
That's a good question. I think it does a couple of things. First, it makes things real. I mean, let's face it. Chasing any dream, there are going to be people who doubt you, people who don't get it. But even more than that, I think it shows us how Daniel handles it. It sets the stage for him to show us resilience.
That's so true. He doesn't let those negative comments stop him. He starts using those motivational phrases to keep himself going, like those "I can do this" kind of things. Do you think those actually work? Or is it just like positive self-talk?
Well, there's actually a lot of research now that says those motivational phrases can really be effective. It's like they help us reframe things,
Yeah.
They help us shift our perspective and focus on what we're trying to achieve.
So it's not just about feeling good. It's about like changing the way we think to stay on track.
Yeah, exactly. And we see Daniel using this all throughout this part of the story. He practices every day, asks strangers for help. He really embraces those early stages of learning, even when it's awkward.
That makes me think about something I read about how making mistakes can actually help us learn faster. Have you ever noticed that? How you kind of remember the words you mess up more clearly?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that, like neurologically. When we make a mistake, it triggers a stronger emotional response. And that helps us remember things better. And Daniel's story totally shows that, doesn't it? He doesn't avoid mistakes. He sees them as part of learning.
It's like that saying, you win or you learn. It's so important to remember that, especially when we're trying something new. But okay, I gotta ask, what about those times when it's not just our own doubts we're dealing with? Like Daniel with those villagers, how do you deal with that negativity from other people?
That's a really great question. And notice how Daniel handles it. He doesn't get into arguments. He puts all his energy towards his goal. It's like he's built this shield of purpose around himself.
So it's about being smart about which battles you fight. Right, not wasting your energy on other people's opinions and staying focused on what you want to do.
Exactly. And this takes us to a big moment in the story. A teacher comes to visit from the city and realizes how well Daniel speaks English. It's like all those years of effort, all that doubt, it suddenly turns into something real,
And then, boom, she gets offered a job as an assistant teacher. It's like the universe is saying, okay, you did the work, now here's your shot.
Yeah, it really shows how preparation and opportunity go hand in hand. But there's another message here too, a quieter one. The job, it's not just a reward. It's a chance for him to use what he's learned to do something meaningful.
So it's not just learning for yourself, it's using what you know to make a difference.
Exactly. That's a really powerful message. But the story doesn't stop there. It jumps ahead a few years, and we see Daniel teaching, inspiring a whole new group of kids. What do you think the author's trying to show us with that jump?
That's interesting.
It really shows how powerful perseverance can be, don't you think?
Yeah.
Daniel, he went from being made fun of to being a respected teacher. It shows us that dedication and believing in yourself can really change your life.
And it's not just the job, it's the effect he has on others. He's not just teaching English, he's inspiring those kids to dream big, to believe in themselves. It makes you wonder.
It makes you wonder what kind of legacy we're leaving, right? What are we doing to inspire the next generation? Those are good questions to think about.
They really are. But hey, we're not done yet. Coming up next, we'll be diving into Act 4 and checking out the power of a story. Stick around.
All right, so Act 4. We're getting into Act 4. And there's this kind of subtle shift in the story. It's not just about Daniel anymore, you know. It starts to look at the power of stories themselves, like how they can inspire people, lift up a whole community even.
Now that's interesting. I hadn't thought of it that way, but now that you say it, yeah. It's like zooming out, seeing the bigger picture, how Daniel's changes affect the whole village.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it all leads up to that part where the village elder honors Daniel. Right. That's a powerful scene, don't you think?
Totally. It's like the whole village is recognizing what he's done, celebrating how he never gave up, and seeing how he's made things better for everyone. It's like the ultimate validation.
It really is. It shows us that what we do individually can have this ripple effect, you know? And it's cool how the story uses this scene to show how learning and teaching go hand in hand like a cycle. Daniel, he was pushed away for wanting to learn, and now he's this respected figure who inspires others.
It's like they say, we rise by lifting others. And his words during that ceremony, they really hit me. Hard work and kindness can transform lives. So simple, but so true.
It really gets to the heart of being human, don't you think? No matter who we are, what we're aiming for, hard work and kindness, those are the things that help us grow, both personally and as a society.
Absolutely. And it's a message that goes beyond just this story. It reminds us that we all have the ability to make things better, to make a difference in our own lives and the lives of the people around us.
Yeah, and the story doesn't just stop at that warm, fuzzy feeling. It gives us this little learning tip at the end, asking the listener, what did you learn? How can you use it? It's like the author is nudging us, telling us to put these lessons into practice.
It's so smart. Because you can get swept up in a story and then forget to think about how it applies to your own life, you know? But this learning tip, it brings us back down to earth, reminds us that knowledge is really powerful when we actually use it. So to everyone listening out there, think about it. What really stuck with you from Daniel's story? What's one thing you can do, even a small thing, to use those lessons in your own life?
Maybe it's starting on that dream you had for ages, or helping someone out, or even just telling someone else about this story, you know, if you think it might inspire them.
Those are all great ideas. It reminds us that we all have something special to give to the world. We all have the potential to be like Daniel, to use our own experiences, our knowledge, to make the world a better place.
And speaking of making things better, the story does something really clever with that last learning tip. It encourages us to tell Daniel's story in our own words. By retelling it, we're not just understanding it better, we're also maybe inspiring someone else to start their own journey.
You know, there's actually science behind that. Studies show that explaining things to others helps us understand them better ourselves, makes it easier to remember too. So by sharing Daniel's story, we're spreading inspiration and learning more at the same time. It's like a win-win.
It is. It shows how learning is something we do together. You know, it's not just about one person, it's about sharing and growing together. But as much as we'd love to keep talking about this amazing story, we're coming to the end of our deep dive into the rise of Daniel, from poverty to purpose.
But hey, don't worry, we're not quite done yet. We've got one final thought to share, something we think you'll find pretty interesting. Hang on a sec, we'll be right back. And we're back. Okay, I've got to say, that last scene in The Rise of Daniel is still with me. The way the whole village comes together to celebrate him, it really shows how personal growth, it's not just about us, you know? It can spread out and really affect our communities in amazing ways.
Yeah, it really highlights how what we do can inspire the people around us. And it brings up this idea that I find really interesting, the idea of legacy.
Oh, legacy, yeah. What do you mean by that?
Well, just think about Daniel's story. It all started because he wanted to learn English, but he stuck with it, worked hard, and not only did he change his own life, but he left this lasting impact on his community. You know, he became like a symbol of hope, proof that anything's possible if you dream big and go after what you love.
That's so true. And I think sometimes It's easy to get caught up in our daily routines and forget about the bigger picture. Like, what are we doing that will last? What kind of mark are we making with our actions, our choices, how we treat other people?
Those are big questions, aren't they? And Daniel's story really makes us think about them. Like, what are we passing on to others? How will our journey affect the people who come after us?
It's like the story is asking us to step back for a minute and look at how our lives touch other lives. How can we be more like Daniel, using our own talents and experiences to make a difference?
And it doesn't have to be something huge, you know? Remember that small act of kindness from the vendor who gave Daniel that grammar book? Sometimes the biggest changes start with tiny moments of generosity and support.
So it's about seeing that everything we do, every choice we make, it creates this ripple effect. And even though we might not see the impact right away, those ripples can go far and touch people's lives in ways we might never know.
Exactly. It reminds us that even when things are tough, when we feel lost or discouraged, we still have the power to make a difference. Just like Daniel, we all have something special to offer the world.
That brings us to our final thought for today. If you were to write the next chapter in Daniel's story, what would happen? How would he keep inspiring his community? What new challenges would he face? What would he teach people along the way?
Let your imagination run wild. Think about the legacy you would want Daniel to leave behind.
This has been an amazing deep dive. We've explored how powerful learning can be, how important it is to never give up, and the incredible impact of a single story. Thanks for joining us on this journey, and remember, just like Daniel, you have the power to make the world a better place.
Keep learning, keep growing, and keep sharing your story. We'll see you next time.